So Nintendo put out some information regarding the future of their software lineup and how they're going to handle things, because they were asked about these long gaps in between games and how sometimes we wait 5, 6, maybe even 7 years for some of their bigger hitters, and even Nintendo recognized that this is a thing, and they talked about this and why things are so much longer now, and also explained what their, kind of game plan is moving forward. But even though they explained this, a lot of people don't like how they explained it, and a lot of people are not happy with what Nintendo's plans are and how they've been handling the prices of games and the quality of the games that they've been dropping. So let's just dive into it. Well, this article comes from My10doland.com. It starts off by saying Nintendo President Shuntaro Furukawa has explained in an investors meeting that games are now taking more time and more resources to develop, and that is impacting development times. However, he says to remedy this, the Kyoto-based company is continually expanding our development resources and making the necessary investments. Tetsuya Takahashi, sorry for butchering that, chimed in and told them that as hardware advances, it is inevitable that software development takes longer and that they aim to continue with a variety of new offerings. Furukawa states, game development today is more prolonged, more complex, and more advanced. That is unavoidable. To deal with this, we are continually expanding our development resources and making the necessary investments. Takahashi states, as hardware advances, it is inevitable that software development takes longer, but I believe we are succeeding in our efforts to shorten development cycles. For example, by steadily improving the development environment following the release of the hardware. Whether titles take a long time or a short time to develop, we want to make games that are fun. It is not as if Super Mario Bros. Wonder was under continuous development for nearly a decade. There was a long gap between the release of the previous title, New Super Mario Bros. U, the current title, because various initiatives and studies were made in the meantime. Going forward, we aim to continue with a variety of new offerings, and we hope you look forward to them. Now, Takahashi Tezuka, the executive officer, chimes in and says, after we finished Super Mario Bros. Wonder, I was reminded 11 years had gone by since the previous game. However, that didn't mean we did nothing during that time. We developed several new Mario games, such as the Super Mario Maker series and the 3D Mario series. To reiterate Nintendo's creative philosophy, first, we think about creating entertainment that has never been done before, regardless of whether it is a Mario series game or not. Then we think about how we can make it fun for everyone so they fall in love with Nintendo. All of our games involving Mario, not just Super Mario Bros. Wonder, are created with the goal of encouraging as many people as possible to play them. As for upcoming new titles, some will take time to develop and others will be made in short periods of time. I hope you look forward to our new offerings. So Nintendo is pretty much saying as we get stronger and better hardware, like the rumors are suggesting, the Switch 2 is going to be a powerhouse for Nintendo, we are going to have longer development times because these games are going to be more and more graphically demanding. Look at how big and crazy Breath of the Wild was, and clearly it's going to take longer and longer for these games to be developed, but Nintendo had claimed that they are working on ways to get around this and to cut these development times down a little bit. But we knew this. This is kind of always the case. We normally always wait around 6 to 7 years for the next big 3D Mario game, so this is nothing out of the blue. Although it is kind of crazy, if you think about it, the last brand new original 3D Mario game was Odyssey in 2017, and this October, which is just in a couple of months, we are going to be 7 years since then. So clearly, we are extremely due for a new 3D Mario game, but as you can tell, it sounds like it's a hardware thing. It's like these games are becoming more and more expansive, bigger and better, so it's going to take a lot longer. And with the rumors suggesting that the next 3D Mario game is going to be open world, it only makes sense why this development time is stretching out as long as it is. And like they said, with that 11-year gap between New Super Mario Bros. U and Super Mario Bros. Wonder, they weren't just continuously working on that game, not at all. In fact, I guess they were just trying to sort out what they wanted to do next for 2D Mario and just never really pushed it forward, and they had other projects that they were working on, for instance the Mario Maker series with both 1 and 2, 1 on the Wii U and technically the 3DS, and 2 on the Switch. Clearly there was a lot of passion for Mario Maker and it didn't really push them to have to make a new 2D Mario right away, so I completely get that. And like they said, they had been putting out other 3D Mario games, or technically 2 if you count Bowser's Fury. But yeah, like Super Mario Odyssey, Bowser's Fury, which is a Mario 3D World port with an additional mode, and yeah, Super Mario Bros. Wonder. So of course, they're never just not doing anything. And I'm telling you, especially since Super Mario Odyssey never did get DLC, I'm sure they started working on that new Mario game literally like the day after Odyssey was published or like done. So I'm sure this game is very, very very close to completion. In fact, I'd say it's probably done, and they're just literally waiting to announce the next console before they can talk about this 3D Mario game. Now, what is it that people are mad about? Well, there was another update on this information stating that Nintendo has 2 strategies to shorten game development time, since they're aware that making games nowadays take up to 6 to 7 years. Number 1, expanding/hiring more people, and making AA games. And this is something that they alluded to within the article itself, but Shinya Takahashi and Takashi Tezuka are the 2 people responsible for the AA push. Now, in case you're not aware, what are AA games? Well, they're games that are not considered absolute monster powerhouses from Nintendo. These are not your 3D Marios. These are not your big brand new 3D Zelda games. These are relatively smaller games, but still games that are important to Nintendo and to certain fans. For instance, these are probably your Paper Mario games, your Mario and Luigi, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, the side Mario spin-off titles. And I think it's pretty evident on the Nintendo Switch that there are tons, and I mean tons, of AA Mario games. I mean, we have remakes and remasters and ports of old Mario games. We just have little collections like the 3D All-Stars. We have tons of Mario parties and sports. There's Mario everything on Nintendo Switch, but not a lot of AAA games. I mean, seriously, if you break it down, I think a lot of people would only consider Mario Odyssey being the only AAA Mario title on the Switch right now. I know, personally, I would say you gotta count Mario Wonder even though it's a 2D Mario game, but I think even Nintendo themselves probably sees Super Mario Bros. Wonder as a small AA game, considering the fact that it was revealed and released in just a handful of months. And of course, there's those people on Twitter that are obviously not very much happy with this game plan and model, saying, so basically the strategy is to rip people off and charge $60 to $70 for lower AA quality games. More and more, the quality of Nintendo games are starting to look like things you see on cell phones or games like you saw on the Intellivision Amico. So yeah, this is what a lot of people are starting to back up, and I see a lot of people online saying that they agree, and I can't say that I 100% disagree. Of course, I overall disagree, but I can't say I 100% disagree. I don't think it's a problem with Nintendo having lesser scaled games. I mean, yes, it keeps the calendar years full. If we had to sit there and wait every 7 years for a big new game from Nintendo and there was nothing in between then, I mean, seriously, people would be so upset. People would be saying what they're saying about Microsoft and Sony right now. There's no games. Where are the games? Where are the games at? Because Nintendo likes to keep their calendar full of little things and a mixture of big things. So I think that's perfectly fine, but it does come down to the price and the quality of the game. When you look at the sports games on Nintendo Switch right now with Mario, they are absolutely bad. They are just not good. Most of these games launched with little to absolutely no content whatsoever. I mean, seriously, we had to wait literal years in some of these games to finally get the full roster of characters and like an additional 1 or 2 maps. So yeah, that has to stop, and charging full $60 for these games is kind of absurd. Switch Sports is a prime example of this. I know this game was only like $40, but the fact that we had to wait over 2 years for basketball, which has been proven to be in the files, they even had renders for the character holding the basketball on release, proves that Nintendo is rushing these games. I mean, something that I was hoping for was golf took almost a year to come out, which is like very basic, and a lot of these games are literally the same exact games for the most part from its predecessor being Wii Sports. The bowling is pretty standard and coming back, golf works the same way, basketball works ideally the same way, there's even Shambara, which is pretty much the exact same as sword fighting from Wii Sports Resort with just some additional features. But yeah, it's stuff like this. They should not be charging $40 for half of a game. I mean, regardless, I don't care if it is $40. It should not be $40. So you could either blame the price point or just blame the lack of quality or the lack of quantity, you could even say. Look at Mario vs. Donkey Kong. It's still a really fun 2D puzzle platformer, but it is in fact a remake. This game came out on the Game Boy Advance. They added a couple worlds, but still you could beat the game from beginning to end in just about a 2-hour sit down. Seriously, it's that short. And the fact that there's really nothing else to do besides go through the game again in its little bonus mode, which is like an additional 2 hours, you can do pretty much everything in this game 100% complete it in around 4 to 5 hours. That isn't great, and it's priced at $60. This is the same price as Super Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild. How is that possible? I had a blast with Princess Peach Showtime, and I recognize the game maybe isn't for an adult audience. It's more focused for a younger audience, but there's still lots of, collectibles and stuff to do. But overall, the game is very, very short. You can beat the game in about 4 to 5 hours and pretty much do everything you need to do in around 6 to 7 hours. So once again, it's just, if Nintendo's going to charge $60 for these AA games, can they at least make it worthwhile, give you stuff to do and to play, and make the games longer? I think would not be complaining much. And if you can't make the games longer and you need to keep them as short as they are, at least drop the price down to $50 or even $40 for some of these Mario spin-offs and these AA games. Don't just slop, some AA game down on the Switch with minimal content and say, here you go, $60. It's that I completely understand why people could be upset, but I still think we need games like this. It does help to fill out, those missing gaps as we're waiting 6 or 7 years for the really big, massive 3D Marios, Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, Zelda, those big titles. I completely understand. But I definitely do not agree on the art style claiming that these games look like mobile games, they should not be charging $60. A game like a 2D top-down Zelda game like Link's Awakening or even this new Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, I'm assuming with Echoes of Wisdom that it's going to be very similar to most top-down 2D Zelda games, which normally give you lots of time of gameplay. I mean, genuinely, they're pretty long games, full of collectibles to find in some pretty difficult areas of the game. So I really don't agree with art style. That doesn't really make sense at all. A game can still look cute, but also have tons of content and be worth $60. And that even goes for a game like Mario & Luigi Brothership, where most Mario & Luigi games, even on the 3DS and even the Game Boy back then, can run around 30 to 40 hours of gameplay. It's a pretty long RPG. So with that said, if I could make a perfect world and I had to put all the price points and how Nintendo handled things, I'd say it's pretty simple. For any AA game, you give full effort. It could still be $60, but there should be tons of stuff to do, and the gameplay should reach well over 15 to 20 hours for any type of game. I mean, you should be able to put in lots of hours. That even includes the sports and Mario Party games. There should be tons of side modes and challenges and a story mode and even fun online options to do, keeping people entertained for multiple hours. And when it comes to the $50 and $40 games, all of those should be based on the ports and remasters. If it's a remake, it should be $50. If you're rebuilding the game from the ground up, it should be $50. It's still the same game that we played and loved, just with a brand new coat of paint, a brand new look. And if it's a remaster or a port, it should be $40. It's just that simple, especially when the remaster looks the same way that Donkey Kong Country Returns HD looks right now, which is pretty garbage. It should pretty much be $40. And that's at the highest. But yes, I am fine waiting 6 to 7 years for a huge, gigantic AAA game, whether it be 3D Mario, Mario Kart, whatever. But let me know in the comments down below what you think of this strategy from Nintendo. Do you agree with them? Do you disagree with them? Definitely let me know your opinions down below. And thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe before you head out. And like always, I'll see you all on the next one. See ya, guys.